Hello and welcome to our Sustaining Healthy Relationships podcasts. In March 2022, Relate NI commissioned Ulster University to carry out evidence-based research on healthy relationships and their importance across our lifespans. These podcasts delve a little deeper into our findings and we bring them to life with experts unpacking particular findings. Enjoy. Geraldine McGuigan, you're very welcome to our podcast on healthy relationships.
Thank you.
Geraldine, will you tell me a wee bit about the organisation you work for and what you do?
So the organisation I work for is VOYPIC, Voice of Young People in Care, and VOYPIC was set up in 1993 by a group of young people and care professionals to make sure that young people's voice was at the heart of decisions that were being made for them. And for VOYPIC we do advocacy work, so we work with our young people, ensure that their wishes and feelings and rights and entitlements are being upheld, and also ensuring that our young people know the rights and entitlements. And the biggest part of advocacy then is really that our young people can go on and advocate for themselves.
So it's like building their confidence and their self-esteem to be able to articulate to whoever what it is that they need. Yeah,
100%, Kelly. And I suppose, you know, the advocacy work is a lot of one-to-one work, and then we would do participation work and group work. And it's that participation work and group work that really helps build all those skills, you know, but builds their self-esteem, their confidence, pushing them outside of their comfort zone. And the other side of that advocacy work then is making sure that that voice is heard right up at high level decision makers who are sitting up in Stormont. So quite often our participation forum are asked to consult on different papers coming out, with the most recent being the Ray Jones review and our experts by experience. That's how our young people are titled, which is very apt. And last year it was the Children and Adoption Bill, and their recommendations are all embedded throughout. They were taken on board. There was changes made to the Children and Adoption Bill, and through the Children's Services Review you can hear the voice of our young people. So it's the advocacy work, it's the participation, and it's engaging with decision makers to make sure their voices are heard right up throughout the system.
Yeah, because we talk about all the time, especially in Relate or Sustaining Healthy Relationships and stuff that we talk about lived experience, because you become an expert because you've been through the system. And I think sometimes, and you know this better than me, you know, the state as a parent, it's all about kind of pathologising the young person, or, you know, trying to infantilise the young person, you know, like, we know what's best for you, you don't really know what's best for yourself. So building that confidence. And I thought it was interesting you said about working one-to-one first. Geraldine, is that kind of to build up their confidence and self-esteem so that they can go on and do, you know, constructive or productive group work? Or why is that particular that you would do one-to-one first?
So sometimes it's not one-to-one first. Sometimes we would get a request through to meet a young person, and the social worker feels that they need some advocacy, and it's the advocacy that we can do one-to-one. Sometimes the social worker or their carer, which their carer, by the way, can be foster care, kinship, which is a family member, children's home, or a safe adult for them, and they might get in touch and say, do you know, they're feeling a bit isolated, or their peers, there's no one in their peers who's care experienced, and they want to then have that wee connection with other care experienced young people. So sometimes they don't need advocacy work, and they come to our group work. And the advocacy work then, if they don't feel confident or ready for group work, then we can do that relationship building and that gentle encouragement and hand holding to bring them into the group work and really encourage them. And then the advocacy work and the group work can inform some of the work that we're doing, some of the challenges that we're putting up to the corporate family. And most recent things that have happened along that have been the Dictionary of Care, where our young people really didn't like some of the words that were being used to describe them, like lack, looked after children. I was at your 25-year anniversary, and I thought the dictionary was fabulous. And it was interesting because I've heard loads of people talk about lack, and from I've been at that event, I talk about care experienced young people. I do not talk about looked after children or lack at all. Yeah, brilliant. And do you know, Kelly, that all came about from our young people saying, do you know, and you heard on the day that was a young woman saying, you know, what am I lacking? Is this why I'm in care? Do you know, and placement's another thing, you know, that nobody talks about, going you know, like I'm not going to my placement after work today, I'm going to my home, you know, and family time, you know, and the sadly lack placement contact. They're all things that we were all used to in the professional world, and weren't really thinking of how young people were
and how
feeling.
that impacted on them, or how they perceived themselves.
Yeah.
So absolutely brilliant. Geraldine, for young people who are care experienced and have not had healthy relationships modelled as they were growing up, what kind of impact does that have on them?
Well, so some of our young people have experienced trauma and abuse and neglect in their life, and that means then they haven't maybe had the opportunity to have healthy relationships. Some have had healthy relationships maybe with other professionals in their life, such as teachers, youth workers, but at home sometimes that's been missing for them. And then what can happen is they find it really hard to trust a safe adult in their life. They can become maybe defensive, and that then can be seen, and we know about ACEs now, and we know about trauma-informed practice, but before we were aware of that, sometimes that was seen as, you know, they have anger management issues, or they have behavioural issues, and it's just those wee behaviours. And
but every behaviour is communication, right?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? If somebody's lashing out, it's not, and it's a bit like what Bronan was saying in another podcast that we did about this is communication. You're looking at the symptoms. You're not looking at what is in underneath, what is presenting to you.
Yes. And that's exactly it, you know, and even their self-worth and self-esteem, you know, how they feel around people and how they feel about themselves. You know, some of the stuff that we see then is they'll maybe latch on to one person or latch on to a group of people because they've maybe included them or made them feel that they're important and you belong to us and we'll look after you. And sometimes they're not a healthy option for them. And it's really hard then to encourage that young person to see outside the box because, you know, we're working with them for a couple of hours a week, you know, but in the evenings and weekends, that's their sort of family.
They've found their tribe.
Yeah, they've found their tribe. And I suppose the other thing then we would see as well is, you know, if they are in an unhealthy relationship, sometimes they don't recognise that because they have a high tolerance of abuse, sadly. You know, they've heard and they've seen the shouting and the fighting or the huffing and the ignoring and the rejection.
And that looks either normal or this is better than having no relationship.
Yes. Yeah. And it's that normalised, you know, behaviour, and then it can make that really hard, you know, for them to say, well, this isn't, and I deserve better. Or sometimes they don't feel they deserve better. This is all I'm going to get, and I'm going to make do with this. And what we have found then is, you know, there'd be some young people and they would come and they would talk about the relationships as they get older. And particularly our peer support groups, then other young people are saying, that's not right. Do you know, they shouldn't be doing that, you know.
Because that's the question I was going to ask you. If you spend your time building confidence, rapport, a relationship with that young person, you recognise they're in an unhealthy relationship. You can't turn around and go, here, by the way, I know you wanted a relationship, but this is not healthy. It's not from you, but if it comes from a peer, I presume it's from a better place.
Yes, it quite often comes from a better place, and you know, it might be rejected first of all, and you know, but sometimes they go away, and that wee seed has been planted in the head, and they go away and they think about it, and even that allows us then to also come in and follow up on one-to-one after them and just say, listen, that was a tough conversation, you know, and how are you feeling, and we have noticed this, and Kelly, we're very used to having tough conversations, and that's probably one of the biggest things we do in our job, you know, and that's why there's such an emphasis on relationship building. You know, we have to work really hard at modelling, being a good role model, modelling a healthy relationship, having good boundaries, you know, listening to our young people. And in VOYPIC, we always talk about this stickability, you know, so no matter how much somebody may shout and scream and tell you where to go and, you know, not answer your phone when you're ringing or texting them, you know, whenever they reach back, they're just brought back in as if, you know, that was nothing, you know, and we're supporting you. And we will continue to have the difficult conversation, but they know that it's coming from a place of care, respect, honesty. And even if they say, listen, you've told me all this and I'm still choosing to stay with this person, then as long as we, you know, if there's safeguarding issues, we report it to the right people. But, you know, if they're an adult and they've made that decision, our role then is really to make sure that we are available, that phone is open to them, that they don't feel, oh, I've cut my...
That's it, I can't go back there.
Yeah, because we don't want them to feel that. We don't want them to feel like they have no one.
Or making a choice between you guys or this relationship. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Do you know, and I think that's all that is really about modelling what healthy relationships are, do you know, so that they can learn, do you know, and you would hear them talking, do you know, well, I'll do this whenever I'm in a relationship or whenever I'm a parent, and, you know, and just encouraging and you know, or, would you really, do you know, and I let my kids drink whenever they want, and we're like, would you really? Do you know, we don't with our kids, and do you know, so it's sort of, you know, challenging and but in a very respectful
and in a safe environment. But
yes,
you couldn't have those difficult conversations if you hadn't built that healthy, strong relationship beforehand, because it just sounds like, well, she's just giving off to me, or she's telling me what it is that she thinks I should do, and so you invest so much time and energy building those healthy relationships.
Exactly, and then that's done. You know, it's not all like advocacy and group work. We do, you know, fun activities with them, and we bring experts in to talk to them, you know, like from the 2 case studies you've seen, we do bring different experts in to talk to them, and that's just to make sure that they have all the information they need to make an informed decision and choice, because at the end of the day it's not our choice, you know, we're rights based, and
it's about empowering them. Yeah, absolutely. So you lead me lovely on to the next question about the 2 case studies. So if you want further information about the case studies and research, you'll find them on our website, but we carried out a piece of research with you, that's why we're doing these podcasts, and one of the findings was around care experienced young people, and Geraldine kindly provided 2 case studies to, I suppose, contextualise what we're trying to say about the experiences of care experienced young people and the importance of healthy relationships. So do you want to talk about the 2 case studies, the one with the young women and the one with the young men?
Yes, certainly. So the one with the young women, that was all around safety keychains, and that came about after the murder of the 2 women, one in England and one in the Republic of Ireland. And our young people then, you know, they were talking about this in the peer support group, and at that stage a few of them were in unhealthy relationships, and there had been conversations around, you know, what was going on for them. So and there also had been conversations, because in the media there was stuff a lot with blame, you know, and there was really good conversations went on about the responsibility and whose responsibility is it, and our young women felt that women should be able to go out for a walk or a run.
Blaming, what was she wearing, who was she with, did she leave her mates, etc, etc.
Sadly still goes on,
of course,
every day. Sadly, but our young women then thought, well, we want other young women to feel safe, so we can't, and they brainstormed and came up with different ideas on what they wanted, and part of feeling safe was also, you know, being able to contact the PSNI. But as you can imagine, some of our young people have had negative experiences with PSNI, either because they've been involved in removing them from the children's home, or involved in, you know, different called out to children's homes, you know, so there's been different experiences. So they thought it was really important that they had a conversation with neighbourhood policing to say, you know, sometimes it's difficult, why we won't approach you for help. So we contacted the neighbourhood police, and they came in and they chatted to the young women, and it was really open, honest conversations, really, really good. And I
met some of the police officers actually at your event, and they were buzzing.
Yes.
And they had really built up a really good relationship with the young women. It was really lovely to see.
And they followed on from that to the point they want our young people to go and then train police officers on how to approach and speak to care experienced young people, and how important that is. So that's going to be an exciting piece of work, and on the back of that then the police provided us with safety attack alarms. There was fun conversations had, like they wanted Swiss Army knives and everything on this
of course,
you know, on this safety chain. I was like, I don't think we, you know, that'll
we're not going to be arming you with a knife.
Yes. You know, so there's really good conversations, you know, and about what you needed, And then we also had people like yourselves in to talk about, you know, healthy relationships and women's aid. And then once the women felt that they knew what they wanted, then they looked at who do they think, how can we promote this? So they contacted all the children's homes and the Joint Commission homes, the independent living in the area, and found out how many young women were living there, and they packaged them up and they were dropped into all the homes, and then we put that out on our social media, and we had a few women contact us and say, you know what, can we come and can we collect some safety chains? And that started in Belfast, and that ended up as a regional service then, because we were funded by the big lottery to do that. That went really well, and that's still something we have now. You know, we still have that equipment, and every so often the peer support group will say, you know, like International Women's Day, we started to think about it again, you know, and they're saying, you know, we've still got that. They're busy with other stuff at the minute, but you know, let's make some of them up because there's more young women coming through. So that was the young women's safety keychains, and the second one was over in our southeastern area, and some of the young men in our group, you know, we're sort of having conversations around relationships, feeling safe, and feeling safe even when you have an argument with someone, you know, around that masculinity, and the dangers that can lead into. So our youth rights workers then started chatting to them, and they felt they needed their own space. It was difficult then to have open conversations while there was other young women in the group, and so they decided then they were going to do a group, and they wanted to chat to the Youth Justice Agency to learn a bit more about the consequences as well. They wanted to chat to the police, and they wanted a PT. You know, they wanted, well, some of that was to get, you know, big and bulkier so that they felt they could protect themselves. So that was good then to have Youth Justice and the PSNIs, and well,
also a bit of working out, a bit of exercise is good for endorphin release, if nothing else.
And that's what the PT chatted more about. Not we're
how
now
to defend yourself.
Yes, do you know, but about sort of using that as anger management. But you know, and it did give them a wee bit of confidence. You know, and there is something about how you're holding yourself and how you're confident as well. And then, and all this is, all our groups are done around food. Do you know, we like, you know, you have to provide food for our young people, toasties, pizza. So I think that night they were eating pizza and they were chatting about how can they now reach other young men. And one of them says, oh, what, you know, because they were coming up with a leaflet then around services, particularly for young men, you know, and they felt that services for young women are out there all the time, because we talk about them, and they felt for young men it was a bit more hidden. So then they were like, how can we get this to young men? How, you know, young men are going to pick up a leaflet and read it. So one wee guy came up with a pizza advice, you know, because there was the pizza box in front of them, and they decided then that they would go to some local youth groups and bring pizza, but in some of the pizza boxes then would be leaflets, you know, and flyers and numbers for people that young men can contact, you know, and that, you know, the whole basis around healthy relationships, you know, that was the main thing, you know, even with each other, you know, that respect, healthy relationships with the police, you know, healthy relationships with other people in their community. So there were two very different but two really successful programmes.
Brilliant. Geraldine, so you talked about the two case studies, and the work's absolutely brilliant in terms of what you do, and the showcase that I went to for the 25 years was just, it was such a feel-good event, and the young people were front and centre, you know, they were leading on it. It wasn't that, you know, the workers were leading on it and they were kind of doing, you know, it was all about them and they were being supported. It was excellent, an excellent event. If you had a magic wand, and you're very experienced in terms of working with young people who are care experienced, if you had a magic wand, what are 2 or 3 things that you would do for care experienced young people?
Okay. So I do have 3 wishes, but I just want to say something in after, you know, what you were saying there about our event that you went to. And I suppose that's the other huge thing for us, Kelly, is that co-production. Do you know, so whenever we're doing any events like that, it's us and our young people working together, and that co-production, you know, so...
But it's so obvious, you know, it is so obvious. This is not, we've designed this and, you know, we're dragging these young people along. It is so obvious. They are confident, front and centre. I was mated, I was graded, all the different projects that we did, like speed dating around the tables, they were all the projects that they were explained, they were all front and centre. It was really powerful, really powerful.
And you know what, you can only admire them, you know, and that's where they're pushing themselves out of their comfort zone from our participation forum and stuff, you know, like coming around here, I've been this morning reading my stuff, reading my notes, you know, butterflies in my tummy. You ask our young people, will they come and speak, and you know, they rock up and there's not a nerve in them. Do you know, I can only admire them. Do you know, they are fantastic. But co-production, do you know, that, and it wouldn't be a VOYPIC event without co-production. Do you know, so probably my first wish is that more people did co-production. Also, and this might sound really, really cheesy, but do you know, probably my own personal wish would be that you could just, when you're working with somebody, just remove all that pain and trauma that they went through. Because do you know what, life's really tough. Do you know, it's tough for all young people now. It's tough for our care experience young people. So having that extra layer, do you know, and their days being really difficult, do you know, I just wish we could, do you know, if you had a magic pill, magic wand to tap somebody and take away, that would be lovely. So probably my biggest wish, and if we could make this come true, it would be amazing, Kelly. But it's to have appropriate accommodation for our young people leaving care. Do you know, sadly, there are young people who have to present on their 18th birthday to the housing executive. I wasn't doing that on my 18th birthday, and I'm sure you weren't doing it on yours. So it's really heartbreaking then to be supporting a young person around that. And we know that we're in a cost of living crisis and finances are really, really tough. But our young people do need that, and they need appropriate, you know, they need supported, good accommodation for them.
And is there's no supported accommodation post 18 in Northern Ireland then, Geraldine?
There is, but with the amount of, you know, there's been an increase in young people coming into care. Do you know, so
there's just resource issues.
It's resource issues, sadly, yes.
Because at 18, you know, you have negotiated your way to adulthood, well, legally adulthood, but in terms of your experiences and stuff as well, you need so much support, especially if you're going to be living on your own for the first time.
And then even, you know, so some of our young people might have been lucky to be in support accommodation 16, 17, 18, 19, do you know, and then at 18 or 19 you're encouraged then, you might have, you've done your 2 years in it, you have to now go into independent living, do you know, and I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she, you know, she's at Halls, but we're still linking in with her nearly every day, supporting her, and I wouldn't want her to be thinking she's on her own in independent living. So just if there was better choices, you know, for them, which then brings me on to that. My final wish is about resources. You know, like some of our young people are asking for things, and they're hearing, you know, well, we don't have the money for that, we don't have the resources, we have a budget to consider, and that is real, that's true. You know, it's not excuses, but that makes it really difficult for our young people. You know, and that corporate family, that the corporate parents, they need to also have healthy relationships with our young people, you know, and really listen to them and encourage them and support them.
It's funny you talk about corporate parents. So one of the overarching recommendations out of the piece of research that we carried out that has produced these podcasts was a healthy relationship strategy for government. So as opposed to going, here's your health, here's your justice, here's your education, here's your communities, let's look at it as a healthy relationship strategy and then fit those things under healthy relationships. So healthy relationships for care experienced young people, healthy relationships for parents, healthy relationships for children, whatever it happens to be, to stop that silo working. And so a care experienced young person, how many services would they come into contact with? You walk us through it, just Julie.
Oh my goodness. So the first, you know, if from a young age they might come into service or contact with the police, you know, if there's, you know, concerns, then you're going to have social workers, you might have health visitors, then there's school, then there's EWO,
What's CWO?
Oh, it's educational welfare officer.
Okay.
Now, not all of them.
Yeah.
Some then may go into foster care, kinship care, or a children's home. And if they're in foster care, then there might be a social worker, another social worker, and alongside there. Then if there's trauma, they might be looking at specialist trauma counselling services, maybe speech and language services. Then they're going into school. And so like at a young person's review meeting, and our young people talk about this all the time, you can have anything from 10 to 12 adults, and this one young person you can have.
That is so daunting.
Very daunting.
That is so intimidating and daunting. All these people have basically a stake in your life or your life decisions.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons then that VOYPIC was set up, because young people back in 1993 were thinking all these adults are making decisions in my life and my voice isn't being heard. And that's a huge part of our advocacy work, to be preparing that young person for the meeting, to hear what they want, their wishes and feelings, encourage them to attend the meeting. Lots of meetings go on, our young people don't want to attend, and they're saying they don't want to attend because they're long, they're boring, and there's too many adults at them. Social workers do try, they do try and speak to the young people, they do try and hear their wishes and feelings, but they also, there's such a high caseload that not every meeting can happen after school in a nice venue, so it can be difficult as well. So there's so many adults working with our young people, and that's from schooling, health, police and justice, health and social care, then housing and accommodation department, community. We had the Lord Mayor of Belfast come in to our participation forum there on Tuesday, and that was following Care Day. Our young people went and had breakfast with him on Care Day, and he was excellent. So he did say, I want to come back, and he then chatted to our young people about living in Belfast and what it was like to be care experienced and what our young people wanted to see. And some of the stuff, when I heard about it, just blew me away. Some of the stuff we wouldn't have thought about, where they're in town and it's really busy and it gets stressful, and they would just love a wee space to go into and close the door and switch off for a wee while and feel safe. And
I mean, the city can provide that. That's not that's not going to cost an arm and a leg. But and also, but getting access to the Lord Mayor to plant that seed, because they're going back in to have committee meetings and discussions around this new vibrant Belfast or whatever it happens to be, and hearing that from a care experienced young person is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
No, it was great. They had loads of suggestions, and to be fair, he's like, I'm taking these away, and putting them forward. So our young people did feel very listened to then, and that's what we want. That's all they're asking, really. Yeah.
Geraldine, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so
Kelly.
much. So thanks to my guest, Geraldine McGuigan. For further information on relationship support, briefing papers and other podcasts, check out relateni.org. You can also listen to these podcasts from your regular platforms.